Hey guys, Destin DeMarion here to recap our, I believe it was 6th and 7th event of our Elite Series season, which was at Lake Guntersville and Neely Henry. So we started out at Neely Henry, really had some interesting conditions. Throughout practice it was storming a lot. You know, the weather was really volatile at the time. The water level of the lake kept shifting, you know, going up and down a lot because they were trying, when they try to anticipate for, you know, rain events, they're adjusting the water beforehand, and then, you know, afterwards, you know, they're kind of stuck with what they got. So they were fluctuating the water. The water ended up going up, I believe, 3 or 4 feet on the upper end maybe. And what's weird about Neely Henry is the lower half of the lake, the water level can be different than the water level up above. And there's like a natural dam. There's a really hard bend. It's called Minnesota Bend, and it kind of dams that water up in there. It really slows it down. I can't really get through very well. So the lower end of the lake was significantly lower water than the upper end. The upper end was high, while the lower end, the water was actually super low. So it was kind of interesting dynamic to the whole thing. And you know, practice was tough. The first couple days I was really struggling to get in a rhythm. I fished up a little bit, fished down. I didn't fish super far up, which I ended up fishing a little bit in the tournament, but I did end up finding a few things. I got on some spotted bass, especially on the mid to lower section of the lake. A lot of the stuff that I was catching them on was almost high and dry, you know, by the time the tournament happened, but they're still fishing some of those areas. Just really tough to get them to bite day one. I only caught a few down there, you know, on a little square bill, which I really wasn't throwing much in the turn or in practice. I caught them on a little 1.5 on, I believe it was the John Cruz series, cashed in the 7-foot on a with a Revo Premier in like 12-pound Gamma Edge, and I was just cranking that on little riprap spots and stuff close to deep water. And I caught a couple largemouth doing that. Actually, I only really caught some spotted bass down in that section doing that same kind of thing. And I did catch a couple largemouth. I actually had some largemouth on bed down in that section. They ended up really not being much of a factor. They were all gone. I think the water dropping on them really spooked them and they left. The spotted bass, I was mostly catching on jerk bait. I was catching on an underspin as well. I caught, the last day of practice, I really got on with an underspin. I probably got about 10 or 12 bites on it, solid bites. And in the tournament, I don't think I ever caught one on the underspin. I think I caught this couple on the square bill, and then I kind of junk fished around too. But it really wasn't happening the first day down there, so basically I scrapped everything day 2 and just went fishing. And I just started fishing current breaks. First or second one I pulled up on, I caught one about 3.5, 3 3/4 on a spinnerbait, little river spinnerbait, a 3/8 ounce. It had a orange blade and a big gold blade on it with chartreuse and white skirt. In that muddyish water, I think that really stands out. I did catch that one right on the edge of a little current seam, and then shortly after I caught a good spotted bass, same bait, right on a grass edge on a little bar with a little current rolling over it too. I saw it come up and bust up some bait. I threw right over and caught it. Then I went a little bit of a lull. I hit a bunch of different stuff. I was just trying to tune into what the fish were doing, and then I ended up going into one area, catching 2 good ones on a frog. Actually this frog right here, which is the Spro Poppin' Frog. Got this on the Cashin. This is an Elite 7.4. This is a mag heavy, actually extra heavy, fast action on a high gear ratio reel with 50-pound braid. Actually, this one's 60-pound braid. So able to get those fish out of that heavy cover with that. And then I went a little bit. I caught a couple shorts on the frog. I think I caught a couple shorts on the spinnerbait. I went to another couple spots. I got a really good bite, ended up losing it on the frog, and then I started running some more stuff, got another one to swirl on the frog. I think the water was dropping a little bit in some of the areas, so I started backing off into the more main river stuff, and I feel like a lot of the backwater stuff that wasn't deep those fish were kind of getting spooked by that water, you know, dropping a little bit. So I hit some main river stuff. I got one to swirl on the frog. I threw this frog back there, wouldn't bite. Threw the spinnerbait back there, jammed him, got him coming to the boat, and ended up losing that one too. Got a couple more short fish throughout the day, but never was really able to connect with another, you know, couple good fish. But you know, it was a much better second day. Did better. I felt like I tuned into what was going on and did, you know, got some good bites, so that's always encouraging. And then we went to Guntersville, and it wasn't your typical Guntersville this time of year. You know, it's typically a ledge thing that time of year, I feel like, and everything's pushed back a little bit, honestly, almost everywhere in the country. So, you know, going in, it was really weird practice. You know, I saw fish still bedding. I saw fish around brim beds. I did find a couple offshore schools. But most of the fish I was catching there weren't giant, you know, up to 3 pounds, maybe 2 and 3 pounders. And, you know, obviously the tournament was one up the river. I pretty much fished from takeoff down, and I focused a lot of my time there. I was getting a decent bit of bites, you know, running the pattern. I was running a shallow pattern and a deep pattern. I actually would start each day deep on some ledges, catch, you know, either a limit or 3 or 4 just to get going, and then I would switch over to my shallow pattern. It really helped when that sun got up, especially for bed fishing. I was catching them offshore on a drop shot, and I also caught them on a 10XD. I did catch one on a 10XD, but then I had a couple brush piles I caught fish off of too on a drop shot and a big worm, like a old monster or something like that. And then I would go shallow, and I was running brim beds, and they were super hard to catch off the brim beds, which I'm usually not used to. You know, they were really finicky around those brim beds, and I'm sure it was the fishing pressure, because Guntersville is one of the most pressured lakes in the country, and you could tell when we were there for sure that it was getting pounded. But those grass fish are really stingy. The bed fish that I did find, if they were locked, they were very catchable. Pretty much any one that you found that was locked on a bed, you could catch it, which is pretty typical. I mean, it's when they're locked, you know they've got something invested, and they're a little bit easier to fool because they're so defensive in that position. But most of the time I was catching them on this wacky worm here. I got an owner 2/0 wacky hook. This one's got a weed guard on like a 10-pound leader Gamma Edge, 10-pound main line. This one is on a 7-foot Icon series casting. This is 7-foot medium. I kind of used this one, and I think I also used the 7-foot medium heavy as well. Those are pretty much the ones I was using, especially around the grass. Medium heavy I think was a little bit better, but I was catching them on the drop shot, you know, a 7-foot medium casting Elite as well. Same setup pretty much. I think I had an 8-pound Gamma Edge though. I was throwing a robo worm on I think a 2/0 cover shot with like a 3/16 ounce weight. I was also catching some fish off of beds on the drop shot if they're really kind of stingy and really weird. I'm sure they were getting a lot of pressure, so that was something else that they weren't seeing quite as much. I did, you know, both of you doing that. I was frogging a little bit up shallow, but most of the damage I did do, I did weigh a couple on a frog, but most of it was on the wacky and the drop shot off of beds or around brim beds. I was throwing it around that stuff. Day one, had a pretty decent day. I think I had 12 something, 13, right in that range. I did catch a good one, like a 4-pounder, which really helped. Day two, I caught fish too. I just never really got a big bite. I did catch, I think my biggest one offshore, maybe 3 pounds, 3 1/4. Yeah, probably 3 1/4. But I was catching 2-pounders, and I never could really upgrade more, you know, over that mark. I was trying to frog that afternoon, trying to get that big bite, but it never really came to fruition. But you know, I'm excited. It was a tough swing for Alabama. I've had, you know, a tough go in Alabama a lot of times in my career, but you know, I'm learning something new every time, and you know, hopefully just continue to build on that. But we're just about to head up north, do some smallmouth fishing, and I am very excited to get back near home after a long time on the road and see the family.